So for those of you who don't know Southern California Edison, it is a regulated investor-owned utility that serves Southern California. That goes well together. We have over 18,000 employees. We have 50,000 square miles. Santa Monica is in our service territory, just outside the LA DWP service territory. But if you have an outage here in Santa Monica, that would be our fault, I guess. So we have serve almost 14 million people through almost 5 million separate accounts. And you can see here how large the service territory is. No, I'm really, okay. So just real quickly, what is distributed generation? That's what I'm going to focus on here as we talk about renewable resources in the state of California. California is a great leader. It leads the country in terms of pushing the use of renewable energy resources in the state. We are working on meeting a 33% standard by 2020, which would mean that 33% of our sales come from renewable energy resources. Distributed generation is a type of renewable resource. You can see here it covers a broad number of technologies. There is not one specific definition of DG, and so most people, when they think about distributed generation, think of it in this way, where it's, I should go back, where it's small-scale power generation, usually up to 10 megawatts. It's dispersed or decentralized. It's located, solar photovoltaic is a type of distributed generation. These internal combustion engines are another, and they encompass generally most people, when they think about localized energy resources, which is the governor's goal he announced in 2010, it is non-generation resources. So when I go back, those microturbine generators, the internal combustion engines, those wouldn't count under the governor's goal. His goal also is different in the sense that they're larger size. So they go up to 20 megawatts in the localized energy resources that the governor is talking about. And we will be a front runner, I think, in also pursuing this goal as we implement it. So I'm going to focus mostly on this slide. As we think about localized energy resources, we have several challenges in integrating it. And primarily, I'm going to focus on the operations. When we built the grid, SCE has been in business over 125 years. And it was a system that was designed to have large-scale power plants that flow to transmission lines that then get scaled down to distribution lines and go into people's homes and businesses. And so the grid flowed one way in. And with localized energy resources, now the grid can flow two ways, right? It's going onto the grid from these smaller systems all over the place. And one of our concerns as we build, as more localized energy resources come online, is around safety. When we have outages and there's lines down, the localized energy resource may still be energized. And so it's really important that our folks who go out there to restore power have a good sense of where these resources are so they can test to see if those are energized as they look to put the power back on the system when there are lines down. Also, distributed generation, while it's can be placed strategically on the grid to help improve grid stability, it's important to understand that most of the time when we place it on the grid, we do have to do upgrades either at the distribution level or the transmission level to ensure that there is still a reliable service of power flow going both ways. Intermittency is just another issue as we go to more distributed generation. So solar PV, as you know, it's only available when the sun shines. With more intermittency, you have to have backup resources when those resources are not available. And so where those are sited and how to permit those, particularly here in the South Coastal Air Quality Management District, is becoming more and more of a challenge as we go forward towards a 33% standard and more renewables to have backup generation. How will it be permitted, and working with developers on that. We do think that in the future, and I'm not going to spend time on it, but policy really needs to work together where the Air Quality Management District and the ARB is working with the Public Utilities Commission, the California Energy Commission, just a number of different regulators on a unified strategy for renewables, for green energy, so that all the rules can sort of tie together and work together as we implement them. And then I'll just touch real briefly on economic. As you probably know, with investor-owned utilities, our rates are regulated and customers pay generally the costs of our service. As these costs go up, those costs then are incurred by the customer. And so what we just need, again, is good policy on how those costs get distributed to the customers. Many of the people who are able to take advantage of distributed generation are people who can afford to put solar on their homes and usually own those homes. And so it's how do we make sure there's fairness for those people who can take advantage of tax breaks and incentives to install solar, for instance, and not leave costs then with people who are either renters or who don't have the resources to install distributed generation on their homes. One of the great things that we're doing is partnering with others. I really love the amount of research that we're doing in partnership with a number of other people. For instance, with DOE, we got a grant through the American Reinvestment Recovery Act, is that what it stood for? Back in 2010. And it's with the Irvine Smart Grid demonstration program. And then we also have a test with Florida State University. We have a residential load study that's going on with Cal State Long Beach. Another study on the commercial aspects of solar with the National Renewable Energy Lab up in San Francisco, or outside San Francisco. And then we're doing work with the Department of Defense with trying to site renewables on these military bases, because we serve a number of military bases here in Southern California. And they're, as you heard earlier, very interested in getting more renewables on their bases. So I'm just going to close with the fact that, as you all know, California is on the cutting edge of a lot of renewable resources, a lot of energy policy when it comes to forward thinking, much more than what we see in other states in the country. With distributed generation, again, the location and how you procure it is really important to how it affects the overall cost of distributed generation. We're collaborating with a lot of developers, with policymakers, and other stakeholders who have a lot of interest in this area. We're one of the industry leaders in advancing distributed generation technologies. We are the leading utility in the country on renewables so far, and we want to maintain that leadership space as we go forward. And then we do believe the path forward has to be sustainable and balance both the environmental goals with the economic health of the state, so we can make sure that the state does remain economically competitive and able to draw in new business as well as new residential customers. So that is my 10 minutes. I'm happy to take any questions. Any questions? Mm-hmm.
I guess there's no microphone, so I'll just holler across the room.
It's coming.
Thanks.
Southern California Edison has been really involved in the development of the carbon intensity credit trading market under California's low carbon fuel standard. This is a mobility system, and you didn't mention it during your presentation, but to me it's really interesting. And I was wondering if you are able to address your company's interest in electric mobility and why you see the value in accumulating carbon intensity credits through the low carbon fuel standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, here in the South Coastal Air Quality Management District, the primary sources of pollution of air pollution are mobile. It's only 20% of the pollution that's attributed to stationary sources. So as you go and look at with the low carbon fuel standard, we're interested in utilizing those credits, we hope in the future, to utilize for stationary sources. We don't own a lot of generation anymore with deregulation in the state. We have very few power plants, but we procure a lot of power, and a number of those power plants that we buy from are in the process of either repowering or shutting down, and we have to have new sources of power to ensure reliable service to our customers. And the low carbon fuel standard, we believe, if implemented properly, and of course, as you know, it's in the process of being implemented, has the opportunity to utilize mobile source reductions in the stationary source area. That's our hope. And we hope that that actually can be something that can be translated to other air pollutants. We know that that's going to take policy change, statutory changes at the federal level and at the state level, but we think that could be a model for additional development here in Southern California, an ability for stationary sources to expand their operations if there's growth, and to bring in new business if the opportunity presents itself. Because right now, for those of you who do have to permit in the South Coast, you recognize how difficult it is to get the permits. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, with the colleges that you're working with the company, are you able to actually affect any curriculum changes with renewable energy? I'm not familiar with how many colleges have, up-to-date sustainability curriculum, and so I was wondering if, like, renewable energy and the alternative transportation that you guys work with, are you able to help the colleges teach their students that as well?
I don't know if people heard the question, but when partnering with universities and colleges, do we help influence the curriculums, especially around sustainability and renewable energy and electric transportation? And we do, to a certain degree. A number of our executives are on boards within the university system, so in the College of Engineering at Cal State Long Beach, for instance, or on the energy, there's an energy center at UC Irvine, and we have a representative on the board there. So that helps to pursue both the research opportunities within the university system as well as teaching in those colleges and universities. And we also have internships for students. We have a great internship program in different parts of the company that we try to bring in students and then have them come on full-time after they might do a summer or two within the company and rotate to different parts of the business, and then they come into the company. We also have a new employee rotation program in certain parts of the business, so we might rotate them through different aspects of the business in their first year, and then they go into a permanent place within the company after that rotational year.
Hi.
Hi.
Over here.
I don't see you. Oh, okay.
So you mentioned that you don't own a lot of power plants anymore, you're just procuring the energy. So from the economic standpoint for SCE, but then also from a, let's say, environmental standpoint, what's better for your bottom line, both environmentally and economically, either to be procuring energy from a large solar plant out in the desert or a large wind farm, or to have the distributed generation? I mean, having every house in LA County have solar panels on its roof.
For us, it's not an either or. When you've got 50,000 square miles of territory you have to serve, you need both. We need large-scale renewables, primarily out in the east, because that's where the wind is, and that's where there's great solar resources in the desert. So we are huge procurers of those types of resources, but we also do support smaller-scale renewables, and we think there's a great market there, and also there's a great interest from our customers. So we want to be there and be a viable resource for our customers to ask questions, to understand technology, to understand safety when they are contracting, whether it's with a lot of companies now, there's more leasing of solar than there are individuals buying it and putting it in their home. So now there's a lot more people just signing up with a company. And so just having a resource that they can go to, hopefully a trusted resource like SCE or others, that they can ask questions about the safety, about the kinds of questions they should ask their contractor to make sure that that person is going to be in business for the 20 years that they're guaranteeing that that product's going to work. I mean, those are the types of things that we want to make sure people understand as they go out and put solar on their businesses or on their homes. And we do think there's a need and a place for both. Mm-hmm. Is that the last question? And that'll be the last question. Okay.
So, if I wanted to sell to SCE as a woman entrepreneur, what business would you suggest that I enter so that it can become my first entrepreneur?
Wow, that's a great question. What business? Well, and it's
Distributed energy. I mean,
yes.
You just talked about how you're changing your entire business model to be that thing that if you're gonna create a new procurement cycle for something new, I'd love to invest in today.
Yeah. And we do a lot of procurement from minority and women-owned businesses today. So already, almost 40% of our spend is with minority and women-owned businesses. Diverse business enterprises is what we call it, DBE. And so it doesn't have to be in power, right? It could be in other aspects of services that we need lots of services. We're a huge company. So the newest segment probably would be in the renewable space because it's the expanding space. It's what we have to grow. We have to grow that side of the business to hit a 33% standard. And it's where we see a lot of interest from our customers. I would say both renewables and energy savings, efficiency. So tools and services that help customers save money. We have programs that we submit to the commission to get our customers to save more electricity. They approve those programs, but a lot of those programs utilize tools, whether it's information that the customer has about their usage, whether it's comparison to their neighbor, right? Those types of things to help incent people to utilize less electricity, because the less they use, the less generation we need, and therefore less it should cost in the long run. So they have to be cost effective. But those are probably the two areas where I'd say when you look at where we're going, it's in that space, yeah.